Tickets at goelks.com/tickets.
Support your bones so you can stay active this summer. For the month of July, all CanPrev brand magnesium and collagen supplements are 15% off regular price. Only at Vitality Health Foods, where customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of every month.
Your all-access pass to the world of sports is Edmonton's only sports radio station.
From pre- and post-game hockey shows to in-depth analysis from your favorite commentators, the action never stops on Sports 1440.
Come for Canada's largest trade shows, the biggest names in entertainment, exhilarating sporting events, and more. And stay for the experience at the Edmonton Expo Centre. Looking for the perfect place to host your next big event? From trade shows to galas, meetings, and concerts, the Edmonton Expo Centre has the space, event expertise, and service to make your next event unforgettable. With over 522,000 square feet of flexible event space, in-house catering, and operational expertise, they bring your biggest vision to life. Learn more at edmontonexpocentre.com today.
It's finally time to escape your four walls and see where your four wheels can take you. Sherwood Honda helps you head out on the road the way you want to, with the right vehicle, including freedom-seeking SUVs that give you the versatility to drive where, when, and how you want to. It sure would do some good to get out and stretch your horizons, and sure would be easier with Sherwood Honda.
Get the inside scoop for your team on Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas on Sports 1440.
Presented by Wilhauk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Welcome in, Fantasy Frenzy here on Sports 1440 with Halley and Douglas. Of course, Declan Kruger sitting in for Connor Halley, Brandon Douglas, and Josh Fenwick along for the ride. This is the official show of producers who think they can go yard off Paul Skeens if they get 100 pitches. Brought to you by Wilhauk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky, wilhaukbeefjerky.com. A lot to get into today, of course, in the sporting world. Elks in action tomorrow against the winless Red Blacks. Very winnable game. They should be able to get that one done. Barrett Hayden has had his offer sheet matched by the Utah Mammoth. Not the one on everyone's mind, but obviously anytime an offer sheet comes up, it's always a really funny situation. It's always a great talking point, so we'll get into that. But Brandon, I do want to get into what I talked about right off the bat there. As I was walking by the studio, I heard you say something along the lines of, if you give me 100 pitches, I'm getting a hit. Now, right. I don't know what it was in reference to. I obviously might have added the Paul Skeens part myself, but break down that conversation for me really quickly, because I do have a follow-up.
The conversation goes back over a year, I think, at this point. And it was a question posed when I was sitting in on the morning show hosting by Donovan Paulson during your favorite segment, In or Out.
I do love that
about
segment.
Whether or not someone like a Joe Schmo could get a hit with 100 at-bats in the big leagues.
Oh,
and I believe I could.
Okay, so hold on, because I think you're crazy off the bat. But is there an infield defense?
Yep.
Okay, so you got defense.
You have to register a hit
with defense.
That's what registering. Like if you what you're describing with that would just be like making contact.
No, because I'm talking basically like you get a hit, but the pitcher, like, they have to track down the ball. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you bunt it off, they have to track it down and tag you or something.
No, it's like in-game scenario. I'm at the plate. I get 100 at bats against the same pitcher.
Like any pitch, so I would assume you're taking the worst pitcher in the majors,
ideally.
And you think you could get a hit off 100 pitches?
I do.
All right. May I ask why?
I played baseball my whole life.
Okay, that's okay. I give you that. That's real.
Declan,
I give you that. That's real. I give you that.
I've been watching the World Cup feverishly for the past several weeks.
Isn't it the best?
it's been awesome. That the fact it happened as we're like wrapping up the show yesterday, Argentina's come back and then they score the go-ahead goal and stoppage. It was insane as we're like trying to finish the show in studio. But I digress. You've played soccer your whole life. You still play as an adult, albeit recreationally, casually, right?
Yeah, poorly, but I still play.
That's fine. You still play. You have an understanding of the game. If you just got dropped into a World Cup match and you were a striker, you don't think that over the course of 100 games, you could find your way into a spot where you can score a goal?
No. Dude, if I was good enough to score 1 goal in 100 games, I would be out there playing for the team.
Disagree.
Here's the other thing, because this was the part of the conversation I wanted to take you to. I actually think, and I really do rationalize with you by saying like, hey, I've played the sport my whole life. I have an interest in understanding the sport.
You're aware of how many pitches 100 at-bats is? It's at least 300 pitches, bare minimum.
What's the fastest pitch you've seen?
In hardball, probably, I would think like, call it low 70s. Like we had some guys that threw pretty good when I was still playing as a kid.
Like up the middle, or were they painting the corner?
Well, yeah, I played against guys that had some nasty stuff, like movement wise. Now those are obviously a lot slower, but the point remains. Now then compare that to when I was playing men's fastball, so it's different. It's windmill pitching, underhand. They're still 60 miles an hour, but they're twice as close as hardball pitchers are, right?
But there's so much I want to get into here, because one thing I actually like, I love having this kind of fake conversation about
it's just
what the purely
hypothetical. Like,
no, yeah, about like
you never get to put this in
about like what's the hardest thing to do in sports, and I think one of them is like, hey, could you like win a point, or even honestly, probably at our level, could you return a serve from like Yannick Sinner?
And the answer to that is no. I've never played tennis in my life.
But I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking like speaking in generalities. I think when people talk about some of the hardest things, obviously there would be things that are like body contortion, like gymnastics. Like you can just forget about that. You have to be a very special type of individual and a very type of specific athlete to do those things. So maybe if you want to say like, hey, that's the hardest, I can totally give you that. But when we talk about things like, can you return a serve, or can you win a point off a like a top level tennis player? Can you catch a pass while covered by an NFL cornerback? Can you get a bucket while being defended by a Sore Thompson? I think getting a hit off of a major league pitcher, I actually think that's the hardest to do.
I disagree.
Okay, so interesting. And the text line is lighting up already. You can text in 1-833-401-1440. Loving the conversation. What do you think the hardest is? Or like maybe what's your top three?
I think if you're talking about playing one-on-one against an NBA player where it's you or me, and let's just say you, who has once again played basketball your whole life, you're good at the game at your level. They are still 3 feet taller than you. You have no prayer.
Yeah, but I'm 6'4" though.
You have no prayer.
See, this is crazy.
It would essentially take them quitting, like not trying at all, for you to try and get a floater over their head, like on a step back type.
No,
shot.
see, here's where I disagree, because like if you're playing, like if you're doing, if this is why I disagree, because in basketball, if the challenge is you have to get to the hole and you have to finish at the rim, no chance.
But are you talking about one-on-one, or like you're 1 of 5 against?
I'm talking one-on-one, because even in one-on-one, you
no
can
chance.
step back and but Brett, you can just throw the ball up. And like you can, and I actually saw it's funny, this is our conversation right now. The Brooklyn Nets actually did a social media about this. It was like, how could an average player score a point against you? And now the vast majority of them said, hey, like, listen, unfortunately not. But some of them did kind of concede, like, if you just create space and throw it up 1,000 times, the odds are one of those is going to go in. And I actually think that's much more likely. Now, to your credit, never played baseball, but I think for the average person, that is much more likely than being able to time that swing perfectly.
So you're seeing the same, or a collection of the same pitches over and over again in 100 at-bats. This is not a way for me to try and credit myself as a baseball player. It's just a law of averages. And like,
see, and that's how I'm speaking as well with the basketball thing.
But so here's my counter to the basketball would be, if the guy that's defending you is trying the entire time, he can be in your face enough the whole time. Like you can't get away from him to just randomly, he'll swat it away every time. even if you're just throwing up a hope prayer ball. If he's trying, he's on top of you the whole time. You'll never get the shot.
Okay,
away.
but like my argument would be like if Paul Skeens throws 104 each time.
But I'm not asking to go against Paul Skeens.
Okay, well, like
even if you're who's the shortest player in the NBA?
Yeah, like that's what I was gonna say. Like if you want to put me up against, I don't know who's like a real little guy like Jalen. Like Jalen Brunson's actually that's actually not a bad example because that guy's a pylon defensively. Even though unbelievable player, just won a Finals MVP, has exceeded his unbelievable player. But he's 5'11" and he doesn't really play defense, and he has really poor closeout speed when you create space. So that would actually be like if you can. I'm not even talking about you have to have your Kyrie handles on the perimeter and hit him with a step back to the left. I'm talking if you're like taking this up in between half court and the key and you're just chucking prayers. If you chuck 1,000 of those, especially if you know how to shoot a basketball and you can really keep like consistently put your legs into it, one of those is probably going to fall. Josh is shaking his head but here's my thing. Like you could hit that shot without a defender. And the way Jalen Brunson would be lagging off in this situation,
this has been tested already. It was called the Scallenge.
Brian Scalabrini's 6'11".
Brian Scalabrine also sucked and was fat.
Brian Scalabrine also kind of made his career a little. I'm not going to say he made his career as a defender. He didn't really make his career as anything. But like Jalen Brunson is 5'11" and can't
How
play
dare
defense.
you talk about the white mamba like that? But also, dude, you're wrong. Like, I'm sorry. There's no way.
Okay, well, do you think it's easier to get a bucket against Jalen Brunson than it is to hit off a major league pitcher? This is the other thing, Brandon and I. Sorry, someone texted in about Brendan Little. This is the other thing, Brandon and I disagree with. Like, I just personally think getting a hit off a major league pitcher is the toughest to do. Period. So
I also think that would be tougher than lining up in the backfield and trying to rush for a first down.
A first down is moving the goalpost a little bit. Like,
okay,
to me,
so what would be the equivalent in football in your opinion?
I think getting a yard.
A single yard?
Yes.
No, then that'd be the equivalent to like getting contact on the ball. Like
no, because getting contact on the ball doesn't register as a stat unless it registers as, a foul. Getting a yard registers as a stat.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, you don't like that?
I think that's too like I still think it would be insanely difficult and I would have essentially no chance of doing it. You could give me the best offensive line in history and but do you think you could get a yard? Maybe.
Because I think getting a yard is the easiest.
What if
especially behind a good defense?
What if you're behind last year's Chargers playoff O-line?
Yeah, it would have to be the right O-line for sure. But I think similarly, like it has to be the right pitcher, right? And it has to be the right defender in the NBA.
Yeah. So the right pitcher, like, and this is kind of where it goes back to where the genesis of this. There was plans this year for me to go down to Remax Field and go up against a Riverhawks pitcher. Who these guys can throw heat. They're great. Now, due to my own incompetence and unathleticness, I've hurt myself. I still want to do this at some point.
I would love
whether it be next summer. Let's go down there and am I saying I just show up cold and go in there? No, I would like to maybe take some BP and get a feel for things to warm up essentially.
This is the other thing, and I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you make the point about getting a little batting practice in. Getting some. When was the last time you were like consistently hitting?
That type against a hardball pitcher?
Yeah,
a long time.
I actually like this idea of a challenge. You go do this against the Riverhawks. I find
you go against the Stingers.
I find like the smallest worst.
You're going up against Scotty Lindsay.
I don't know about that. Maybe
next time Winnipeg's in
maybe
town,
maybe Kylie Soleil, their social media girl.
What?
Yeah.
What? She's not on the team.
She's part of the organization.
Okay, then in that case, I'll get the mascot to throw me a pitch.
Okay, fine. I'll take on one of the players, Brandon. I want to jump into the text line. First one that came in to start the show was Dr. Dick Richard. He said, quick question. Did DDR get banned from the text line? You absolutely did not, my friend. You are still there, and we're going to keep reading your text. This one comes in from EG. He says, Deck, you're crazy. Brendan could for sure get a hit. I mean, a Barstool guy did it a few years ago. I'm not privy to that Barstool situation. I don't know who that was. I believe it was, but Barstool also. Now, granted, Barstool has some of the most unathletic losers you will ever see in the sports media world, but they have some former athletes there. Like Titus played college basketball. Obviously,
yeah, but you can say the same thing about this place. Look at people. Look at people like me and Josh, and then by the way, tomorrow Laddie Schmid's going to be in here.
Yeah,
like 500 games in the NHL.
Yeah, but that's to my point as well. Like I don't know which barstool guy they're talking about.
I assume it was just one of the regular personalities, like one of the bloggers or podcasts.
Yeah, but here's the it might have been like it probably was for the sake of this argument. I don't think it would be texted in if it wasn't. But I will say Barstool also comes a little bit of a community, which like once you're part of Barstool, you're just kind of one of the Barstool guys. So I listen, I just wouldn't put it past them if it was like a former minor leaguer or college baseball player or something like that. It probably wasn't, but I do think it's on the table. That's all I'm going to say. Not Fred. He says, I would say returning a professional tennis serve or hitting a professional cricket bowl, not just getting the wicket on it, but actually getting a good hit. Yeah, cricket, the way they bowl the ball, it actually seems decently easy. I don't want to say easy, but it seems doable for sure to make contact. I'm not a big enough cricket guy, so I can't really, I don't really know. MTR, he was coming in. He said, he had some thoughts on this. He said, I honestly think Duke could get all fastballs, nothing else, and he can't square it up. He said, no chance, Duke. And then he went on to say, what are you going to do with a 95-mile-per-hour heater inside? You aren't getting a hit off.
I'll wear it. And then guess what? I'm on base. Doesn't register as a hit, but I'm on base. That might be the next part of this question. Is it registering a hit or is it getting on base? Because could I bunt?
Yeah, you can bunt, but I think if you bunt, I don't think you're going to get on base.
I'd have to.
You got to hustle.
I'd have to improve my speed. I'd have to train for this probably. Or hope for an overthrow, which once again doesn't count as a hit, but I'm on base because it'd be an error.
Triple C in the truck. He texted in and he said, Declan, could you beat a pro swimmer in 100 races? No, nope, I couldn't. Wish I had a better answer for that, but nope. What else do we have here? Because this is really, people are they're loving this one. Neil, he says cricket, serious spin that bounces in front of you. Good luck. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know cricket, man. It looks a little easier when I'm watching it on the highlights. But this brings up two really interesting points. What is the hardest thing to do in pro sports? What is the most doable? And then, of course, what started this conversation, could Brandon get a hit off a major league pitcher if he had 100 at-bats? And you said you've gone over this on the show before, so I'm sure this is...
It originated as an in or out topic and then gets brought up every now and again randomly. And the reason it's fresh today is I think it was MTR texted in since, our friend Tom Gazzola knew he was not aware of us. He said, what do you think of this notion? And I think like the human element matters here. It was my most recent reply to MTR. Like, yeah, he could throw 300 pitches on the inside corner of the strike zone. Do you think throwing it, pitch 100, pitch 200, pitch 300 is going to be the same as it is pitches 1 through 50? No.
Brett, what's your swing going to look like if I swing 50?
I don't have to swing all 300 times. He's supposed to throw it 300 times.
Yeah, but if you're trying to get a hit on 100, so what are you going to do? You're just going to take your chance and you're just going to read it that well? You're not going to swing on 70 of them?
I'm assessing it pitch by pitch.
But what are you assessing?
So let's just I'm not going to sit there and just let him if he's just going to throw as hard as he can for the first 50 pitches. I'm sitting there, all right, getting a feel, getting a read, taking a couple hacks. I'm not wearing myself out. But then if all of a sudden he starts, he's not swinging, I don't need to throw as hard as I can. You got to still be ready.
But here's
for like sitting on the changeup type thing.
I don't think he needs to throw as hard as he can. Like, I think he can give you...
Well, good. Then that just improves my chances.
But I think he can give you 75 or 80 that you're probably not going to be able to make contact with for the first, 30 of them. Then he can bump it up.
You just in minimum 300 pitches. Minimum. Because it's not just 300 pitches. It's 300 at-bats.
No, 100 at-bats.
Or, sorry, excuse me, 100 at-bats. Minimum 300 pitches.
300 pitches are crazy.
I can get a hack and drop one in just to the edge of the grass, like over the infield.
Ooh, Staub Botfer is coming for you a little bit. He says he does not have the discipline to sit on pitches. What do you say to that?
How do you know that? You don't know me? Declan. This has been a fun conversation.
You're ready to end it.
What's the end game here? I think I can. Some people think I can. Others think I can't. It's over. We're going to talk about this for an hour straight.
Hey, I'd like to, but we can switch it up. It seems like you want to. Hacksaw says getting a hit with pro infielders and just putting the ball in play. Two totally different topics. Which is it, ladies? Don't love the ladies added on there at the end, but it was in fact getting a hit with the pro infielders.
The original thing was getting a hit.
Jordy says try riding a bucking horse or a bull for 8 seconds. Yeah, that'd obviously be tough. Duke, I would imagine you'd be pretty well credentialed at that. I was actually in a rodeo as a kid. Did you guys know that?
As the clown?
No, Wood Mountain Rodeo out when I was out in Saskatchewan when I was 6 years old. I did barrel racing, which I think is actually exclusively a woman's event. But I was like 6 or 8 years old or something. And then I also did this thing called the hide race, where basically you get put on like an old cow hide and tied to a horse, and the horse just like runs around the track and you have to stay on. I guess it's like kind of like the kids equivalent of riding the bull or a bucking bronc or something. And I think I fell off pretty quick and scraped up my arms. I don't really remember, but riding a bucking horse or a bull for 8 seconds would be tough. But that one seems a little doable because you're dependent on the bull. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, am I riding one of the Holstein pale bunners out in the back pen, or am I getting on who's the famous bull that JB Mooney finally got a ride on after he bucked off like 40 guys straight? Doesn't matter, but. Yeah, there is always context to these things. It's not black or white. And it doesn't matter what sport we're talking about or anything. What pitcher am I up against? What field is it?
Fred came in. He said, but you have to clarify what the question is.
I have, and people just continue to twist it and come back saying,
no, but I think he's speaking more in generalities about what's the hardest to do. Because he goes on to say, is it a person off the street that has never played university or college or pro in that sport? Because if you had somebody, and what I'm speaking about now is just what might be the hardest. And because he goes on to say, because if you had somebody from golfing and they were a good golfer in college or even high school, they can still do it well. But if you have somebody that has never played tennis before but is athletic and you're trying to return a serve, that's different than somebody who's played tennis all their life and understands the sport. I'm just talking about the average person. Like, what is the hardest thing for the average person to do who hasn't done that sport? And I think probably, obviously I've made my point clear, that it would either be taking that pitch off, getting a hit off that major league pitch, or returning a tennis serve. But we can continue the conversation. The text line is lit up with this one. We're having a lot of fun. Well, me and Josh are. Brandon's pretty over it. And I understand why. So we'll take a break. This is Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas on Sports 1440.
Who should start? Who needs to hit the bench? Find out with Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by Will Hawk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Welcome back in. It is Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas. Declan Kruger sitting in for Connor Halley. Josh Fenwick here as well. And of course, it's always powered by Will Hawk Beef Jerky. Portions of this hour, however, are going to be brought to you by Elks Nation. Check out the new website, elksnation.ca. Articles, podcasts, and more breaking down the green and gold. The most in-depth double football coverage online, elksnation.ca. Edmonton Elks will be in action tomorrow as they take on the winless Ottawa Red Blacks. And I believe, as Brandon reported to me during the break, that the depth chart is out. So I don't. Do you guys want to give your thoughts first on what the depths are? All right. So the most notable one for me here is that Daryl Jabaume is once again going to be the middle linebacker. Thought he had a really underwhelming performance in that game. We broke it down well and good on Steele's Reels. Eddie was doing his thing where he covers him up a little bit. First of all, there's two things here. It's really, really tough to be compared to Nick Anderson and even Brock Mogensen because Nick Anderson is one of the absolute premier middle linebackers in the CFL. Needs to stay healthy. That's a separate issue. And I think Brock Mogensen, one of the best backup middle linebackers in the CFL. So being compared to those two, a little bit tough. But he still did not have really like a game that said, hey, yeah, we need to run that back immediately. So what I thought they might do, I was curious if they were going to shift Joel DeBlanco over to that middle linebacker position, have Daryl Jabaume back him up, and then whoever you want to have come in play that will. Kenny's a little undersized, but maybe you do that. And then I don't know, you bring Chalen down to the Sam and you put like you bring Ladarius Tennyson in at the Sam and you put Chalen back at the same. Like I was just a little curious with that one. Other than that, a lot of people are curious that Noah Taylor gets the start over Malik Carney as one of those edge rusher positions. Malik Carney is their designated American. It is a ratio thing. So Noah Taylor, who I actually think has been one of their best defensive linemen to this point in the season, he is just going to be in for the first play and then get subbed out for Malik Carney. Other than that, it looks pretty chalk across the board. Your slot backs are going to be TJ Luther, Keon Julian Grant, and Brendan O'Leary Orange. Your wideouts are going to be Josh Cephas and Austin Mack. Other defensive end, Robbie Smith. You got Jordan Williams and Jared Brinkman as your defensive tackles. The only really thing of note, and it's not a switch up from last week, but it is Daryl Jabaume at that middle linebacker position. So with that said, Brandon, I mean, when you look at what happened last week in BC, and when you look at how the depth chart broke this week, what are your thoughts or maybe surprises?
Yeah, the injuries at middle linebacker are, as you pointed out, kind of the thing that stands out. Otherwise, I think it is very much as to be expected, run of the mill. Now, for Jabaume, it's your first start in the CFL. You kind of dropped in what is a spot that is usually maybe the strength of position for this defense. When you talk about either Nick Anderson or Brock Mogensen, who are both exceptional players. So and in the way the defense is probably schemed, it centers a lot around that linebacker having your middle linebacker that is having that kind of upper echelon ability. So it's a tough spot, no doubt. And you get a little bit of, good juju to start things off with, the big hit by DeBlanco. He picks off the popped up ball. That's all good. Now, this is a different Red Blacks team than what the Lions present as an offensive opponent. So the decision to put him back in there and get a chance to learn, grow. I'm sure they've been pounding plenty of tape this week in preparation, albeit a short week turnaround for the Thursday night game. I'm very interested to see how he responds against a, on paper, easier opponent with the Red Blacks. As you said, they're winless. Yeah, the Lions were too. But if you ask me going into week 5, which of these two teams will not have a win yet, I think 100 of 100 people would tell you is the Red Blacks and not the Lions. Right. Yeah. So I think I'm okay with them running him back there again, rather than kind of reconfiguring the entirety of the rest of the defense to compensate for it. So I'm on board with it. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I think everything else is very much as to be expected. My question for you about the Elks deck, and you dive into it a lot with Eddie over at Elks Nation, is so Austin Mack, I think, has pretty clearly shown that the chemistry with Cody Fajardo, that legitimate number one receiver ability, is still very much in his bag. He's been very solid here to open the year. But the rest of the passing attack, and we know how much they like to dump it off to Rankin. That was really the only input on the game he had last week was through the pass game. Do you want to see more involvement from the likes of Luther out of the slot? Julian Grant, the pair of scores last week. Are you wanting to see more from these guys? Or do you think that, listen, we know it's Rankin's world. The rest of the offense is largely living in it. And then you've got your number one wideout for when rubber hits the road.
Well, I definitely want to see them more involved, but I don't want to see anything forced, because I do think Justin Rankin, he's a guy who's so good. And granted, yes, his rushing tally was brutal last game, 7 for 19. His longest carry was 15 yards. He had a bad fumble. But he's a guy who you have to have touched the ball 20 times a game because he just is that good. Like, he has to be right up there around that mark. So I'm never going to take away from Justin Rankin's touches just to say we need to get the TJ Luthers and the Josh Cephas involved in the world. The other thing is, like, quite bluntly, I think TJ and Josh, I think they both need to do a better job of getting separation from DBs. The only receiver who can really consistently separate is Austin Mack, and that's kind of evidenced by his targets. Like, if you look at the targets game by game, Austin Mack is generally right up there at the top because he has that ability to separate. And the other guy who's right there is Justin Rankin because he's the check down route. He's the hot read. And I do want to get TJ and Josh Cephas involved. And I do think they have some real skills to them and they have some stuff in their bag that can really benefit the team in the passing game, but it just can't be forced. Like, if you want to force the ball, if you wanted to force the ball into Fred Stamps back in yesteryear, or if you want to force it into Austin Mack, I can live with that because those are two game breakers, so I'm happy to get the ball to. I'm not involving TJ and Josh in my offense just for the sake of involving them in the offense, especially when they can't separate the way they probably need to. And then especially like Josh Cephas, he plays that field side wideout. Like, getting the ball to the field side wideout is really, really tough to do consistently. Like, it's generally your sixth progression in the CFL. TJ Luther, I think he's playing boundary side slot, so that obviously opens it up a little bit more for him. But yeah, it's like, okay, it's one you'd be the second or third read as we go through the progression, but if we can't separate, then what's the point? So yeah, I want to see them get more involved, no question, but I don't want to see anything forced. I would say it that way.
That's very fair. And then so I'll follow it up with kind of in a similar vein about where the strengths of this offense do lie.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions clearly had a game plan of bottling up Rankin in the run game.
They won the line of scrimmage, man.
Do you, when stuff like that's happening, are you comfortable with the offensive game plan, like very early in the game saying, listen, this is where they're focused. Let's turn our attention elsewhere. Still try and get the ball in his hands because he still had 20 touches total in the game if you include his targets and receptions with the few he did actually get out of the backfield handing off. Are you okay with completely changing to move elsewhere? Do you say we still need to try?
I'm a big believer in sticking with it.
Like you say, like he's that dynamic. He will break through. He's gonna like read and adapt as the more touches he gets out of the backfield.
Yes,
and it eventually will still win that battle because he's better than the guys that are opposite.
Well, you make an interesting point about winning the battle because I do think it comes with a caveat. I do think you have to keep feeding him. I do think you have to run things through him. But you also need to see, small steps taken by your offensive line, right? Like, if your offensive line is getting, if you run 10 plays and your offensive line gets blown up 10 times, then I'm fine to say, hey, we got to figure out a way, whether it's a swing pass, whether it's a screen to get the ball in this guy's hand. We don't want to run that the 11th. But if you run it 4 times and they get blown up, then the 5th time your offensive line, they get a little bit of a push downfield, and the 5th time you have a guard who he does really well in a pulling set, and then the 6th time you go outside, you go into the C gaps, and your fullback is a great lead blocker, and you're seeing small steps to improvement, even if the yardage isn't always there, then I'm sticking with him. But if it gets to a point where your offensive line is just getting blown up 12, 14 times in a row, that's when I think you have to abandon it. So I'm a big believer in sticking with it, especially with a dynamic player like that. Like, would I be sticking with it if it was, pick another running back in the CFL, not to throw anybody under the bus? Probably not. Am I sticking with it if it's Justin Rankin? Yes, I am. But it needs to come with the caveat, like I said, of seeing at least small improvements from your offensive line. Where do you come out on it? Like, are you just, hey, I'm happy to abandon this and look to something else?
No, I'm actually very much in line with you. Like, because of a lot of what you talked about, the receivers, where you're like, if all of a sudden the opponent knows, like, all right, they're kind of abandoning the run game here, and you still have to be conscious of Rankin as a receiving option out of the backfield, but otherwise it's like, okay, everyone else is blanketed. We really can like maybe give a little extra attention to Mac with some help. Then all of a sudden their offense is stagnated across the board, right? They're kind of out of options. So I like, and Graham's game script mattered a lot because they trailed in the entirety of the contest, but like Cody Fajardo has a lot of really positive elements to what he can do to manage a game and put the ball in the right spots to set his playmakers up for success. Mac Rankin and others at different points of his career, him throwing the ball 51 times, I don't think you're going to win very many games if that's happening.
Yeah, I agree. That's just, it's not a recipe for success for this Elks team.
Because to me, it tells me if you're throwing that many times, that means you're losing.
Yep.
And if you're losing, I don't know if Cody Fajardo is the arm that can will you back into football games.
No,
like,
I don't.
To go out there and like, listen, go like Bo Levi Mitchell, right? Injury, brutal. Hate to see it. He was off to a great start again this season. Now the Ticats are in a horrible spot. Besides the point. Like, if you get down big because your defense is leaky and the offense is pounding it down your throat, you have Bo Levi Mitchell under center. Yeah, I have all the confidence in the world that him slinging the ball around the turf will get you back in that football game in probably pretty short order. I don't have that same level of confidence in Cody Fajardo as a pure passer.
Yeah,
I have a lot of confidence in him to win football games, but not in that form.
I couldn't agree more. I like Cody a lot. I think Cody does a lot of stuff really, really well. I think he is a dog. I think he's a leader. I wouldn't even call him a game manager, but if you want to put him more into that category than like a downfield thrower.
He protects the ball and he does a good job of putting it in the right spots. But we know he's not like an arm talent to air out the air raid type offense. That's just not his game.
No.
And when he's like, they came into the last week with the best turnover margin in the league, and then you throw 3 picks, Rankin fumbles again. Yeah, you don't have to dig very deep just into a box score to see why they lost the football game.
That's another thing. Like, how do you feel about, like, 3 fumbles in 3 straight games, 3 and 4 games? He's on pace for 13 and a half fumbles.
That's not good.
That's not good. He's on pace for 18 touchdowns, but he's on pace for, like I said, 13 and a half fumbles. Like, I think it'll correct itself, but it's already starting to pop up as a little bit of this might be an issue here.
That's fair. It's fair.
Do you worry about it?
I'm not quite at worrying about it yet.
Okay.
Because once again, he gets the ball so much. Now, good running backs, they can get the ball 100 times a game
and not fumble.
You don't want him to fumble at once. So and I don't know if the conditions of previous games play into it. Like, we know how wet it's been, sloppy and things, but the last 2 weeks the weather has not been a factor. So that argument kind of goes out the window, at least for those 2 games. But previous ones, you have to consider it at least.
It's an excellent point. All right, I guess let's take a break. We're having some good conversations. We're having a lot of fun. Text in your thoughts, 1-833-401-1440. Going to talk a little puck coming out of the break, a little bit more Elks, and just go back to the text line, see what you guys are saying, because your participation makes this show possible, and we always greatly, greatly appreciate it. You're listening to Fantasy Frenzy on Sports 1440.
Action Electrical Solar Team is now making a play for sustainability and savings. They're specialists in powering up for a greener future.
That's the strategy. Designing and installing high-efficiency solar panels. They're helping homes and businesses combat rising utility costs by harnessing the power of the sun.
A smart move for efficiency and the environment. Hire the Action Electrical Team to bring home a win for your project. Visit actionelectrical.net.
Hi, Mike here from Northgate Chevrolet Buick GMC. Car shopping sucks. That's right. Going back and forth 100 times just to get a price. Give me your credit card for a test drive. What's all these extra fees? That sounds ridiculous. At Northgate, we do things a little differently. Good deals on new, pre-owned vehicles, good people, and a great selection. Stop in and see us today. 13215 97th Street, or visit us online at northgategm.com.
You're in Northgate country.
When your project can't afford downtime, call Japa Equipment Rentals. From excavators and wheel loaders to compaction equipment, Japa has the machines you need. Trusted since 1972. Visit japaequipment.com or stop our Edmonton or Calgary locations.
Are you looking for safe and reliable transportation solutions for your wedding, corporate retreat, or golf trip? Look no further than Silent Rides, Alberta's premier charter bus company. Whether your group is big or small, Silent Rides has you covered. We offer 3 different sizes of units to cater to your needs, and we provide first-class service at affordable rates. Get your quote today. For more information and to request a quote, contact sales at 877-748-0991 or visit silentrides.ca.
Cantork has turned 25. That's right, 25 years of building tools so good, they practically torque themselves. Hard work and innovation equals problem solved. See our latest designs at cantork.com.
Your all-access pass to the world of sports is Edmonton's only sports radio station.
From pre and post game hockey shows to in-depth analysis from your favorite commentators, the action never stops on Sports 1440.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is serious about cooling. In fact, we offer multiple ways to cool your home. So you better
call Legacy. Call Legacy.
If you're looking for traditional air conditioning, we got you.
Call Legacy.
Or ask us about a heat pump to help you heat and cool.
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
Cool with AC or cool with a heat pump. Cool your home with Legacy Heating and Cooling.
I'm Rick Showers from Noble RV, and 5 years ago, a lot of people bought their first RV, not because they were really into the RVing, but because camping was literally the only thing you could do with your vacation time. You couldn't go on a cruise, travel was a nightmare. So you bought an RV and you enjoyed it. But now you have all your options back again. And that RV you bought during COVID might be sitting around costing you money.
An RV needs love, care, and attention whether you use it or not, right, Rick?
That's right, Bob. It's okay to declare it was the right solution for the time, but those times have changed. And you might find that an RV doesn't fit your plans anymore. And that's okay, because we can sell it for you. Pass it along to a family that would choose camping over anything else available in the world today. So bring it to Noble RV. Together, we'll celebrate what it did for you when you needed it and what it can do for you now that it's time to move on.
And that's Noble.
NobleRV.ca.
Every coach needs a game plan. Plan your fantasy frenzy with Halley and Douglas right here on Edmonton's Sports 1440.
Presented by Will Hawk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Little stereos as we come into the last segment here. A little CanCon. Summer Girl. I still bump that every summer. Oh, I heard Brandon get the ooh from back there. He knows it's a banger.
Such a banger.
He knows it's heat. I got a question for you guys that I wanted to pitch for you in this last segment. Kyle Lowry is officially retired. One-day contract as a member of the Toronto Raptors. Do you guys think he's a Hall of Famer?
Well, funny you asked that, Declan.
Did that come up today?
Might I refer you to today's edition of In or Out?
Oh, I guess I missed that.
In the 940 segment today. I'm happy to
940. I'm still doing my Tai Chi, so I must have missed it.
Right. I don't think so. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Very Good player, and I can appreciate that so much of what made him a great NBA player at different times in his career is intangible things that aren't measured on a box score or on a stat sheet. But at the same time, to be in the Hall of Fame, for me, you need to have the numbers to go with those type of things. I think you can. I think you can have just okay numbers and have other impacts on the game, but his career numbers just don't really come close to cracking that threshold for me. Even with the understanding of the competitiveness, the winning, the guy that will take the charge, all these facets of his game that made him such a great teammate and a desired player for so long. Like, longevity matters to me. That's all great, but I just think you need to be a little more productive overall.
Yeah, it's fun. He's a really funny case because he didn't get good at basketball until he was like 30.
Right.
And it's what's funny about like Steve Nash didn't get
Maybe
good.
I'm just getting good at baseball.
Steve Nash didn't really explode and become Steve Nash until he got older as well. Now, granted, respectfully to Kyle Lowry, I know Kyle Lowry has a ring, Steve Nash doesn't, but Steve Nash was, the better player, two-time league MVP. Yeah, but he didn't get good until the rules kind of changed, and he was able to
a little bit easier on smaller body
exactly.
guys.
He was able to thrive without the physicality, and then obviously playing in that 8-second offense there in Phoenix, he was really able to kind of take his game up another level in that respect. Kyle Lowry got good when he got older as well, but he did it a completely different way. He started to become a physical player. Like he would take those charges regularly, and he would put his shoulder into you when he was trying to get into the basket, and he would just kind of be a bit of a hound. I actually think most people, maybe outside of Canada, because Canada, you're going to get a little bit of a different mixed bag. I think most people would actually agree with you that he's not a Hall of Famer, but I would put him in. I think
did you know basketballreference.com, and I don't know
85%.
I don't know what their metrics are, how they qualify or calculate this, but yeah, over 85% chance of getting it. That number staggered me to how high it was.
But like also that basketball reference thing. First of all, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic aren't 100% on that. And then not only that, Kyle Lowry has a higher percentage chance of getting in than like Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, a couple other guys of that ilk. So I never really take that too seriously. But my thing about Kyle Lowry is one of the reasons I would have him in the Hall of Fame. And I understand that is like he averaged 14 points a game for his career, 6-time All-Star, only had a couple 20-point seasons. But my thing was, and this isn't exactly analytic based or anything like that, but he was just such a grinder and such a hustler. And he found a way to find so much success playing kind of a type of game you don't normally have success with, and then was a really important piece on that championship team. So I think a lot of people would side with you and say, no, he's not a Hall of Famer, but I would have him in. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think it's a lock either.
The case is like there are merits to his case. It's not a pure shot in the dark. Like this is Canadians and Raptors fans propping up this guy that meant so much to a franchise. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but I'm also a believer in Hall of Fames being a little bit more tight on who does gain access. And this came up when we were talking about it during the Gazzola show this morning. Like,
well, what were the answers there?
Tom said he wanted him to be a Hall of Famer, mostly out of just like, I want him to be, not necessarily that he thinks he will be. Josh was in lockstep with me on kind of the thought process on it all, and we can bring him in here. But Josh and I both agreed, like, baseball is too tight for their Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But what we've seen a little bit in the NHL and Pro Football Hall of Fame are maybe a little bit too loose.
Yeah, Keith Tkachuk getting in. Like, history was pretty kind to a guy who didn't really have great stats and made a couple.
I mean, like he scored 500 goals.
His legacy is having his kids pass him up.
He was on the World Cup team, United States team that won in '96. He wasn't like a stalwart on that group, but he was on the team, so he has that. But otherwise he never like won anything like team perspective. Played on some good teams that always came up short.
No individual. If he was born in Wainwright, Alberta, or
he would have
Quitlam, BC, or Humboldt, Saskatchewan, he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think it's fair. His impact on the growth of the American game, it does matter, and that to me should matter. I agree. I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer. He would have won one Richard Trophy, I think, if it existed at the time, if my memory serves me correctly. He led the league in goals, but the trophy didn't exist yet.
It's not a bad apple to have in the cart. Winning a fake rocket before it existed, that's something. I'll give him that. Josh, so you also don't think Kyle Lowry's a Hall of Famer?
No, I don't. I love Kyle Lowry, but I'm very much in the same thought process as Brandon. And like, you can get good when you're 30, but he made one All-NBA team. He's a 6-time All-Star. He averaged 22 once, 21 once, and then every
3 averaging 20.
Just two. I even have it right here in front of me. Finished 10th in MVP voting, and can you guess what year, Declan?
Sorry, what did you just say?
He finished 10th in MVP voting. Do you know what year?
Oh, it must have been 17 or 18.
2016.
Okay.
So, had a shot, I guess.
That was the year he made All-NBA?
Yeah, All-NBA third team.
Yeah.
But, like, he wasn't even, like, a 6 man of the year winner when he was off the bench. And I like yes, he was a grinder and all these things, but really, like, his career started in 2013, 2014, and it ended once he went to Miami.
No, it was
So
a really short window, but he achieved
a lot in that short window. I think 2 Eastern Conference Finals, 1 Finals win, and like all the intangibles of the game. Like if you look at just his stats, you're like, no, that guy's not a Hall of Famer. Well, and maybe being the greatest player in a franchise's history is enough to get him in the Hall of Fame. But also, I would love it if he was in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he is deserving enough to be a Hall of Famer.
Let me ask you guys this. Whose career would you rather have? Kyle Lowry's or Reggie Miller's?
That's a tough question.
I think it's easy. I think it's an easy answer.
I would probably take Kyle Lowry's.
Who'd you rather have? Kyle Lowry or
But
Mitch
Reggie
Richmond?
Miller was the all-time three-point leader for a while.
He was.
Shooter.
Averaged 18, 3, and 3 for his career.
Went to the finals once. Yeah, like I'd probably take Kyle Lowry's career for the ring.
All NBAs. What about you, Brandon?
Kyle Lowry won 1 ring.
A lot of people don't win any.
Including Reggie Miller.
Yep.
Like Reggie Miller was one of the best players.
No, he wasn't. That's such revisionist.
You don't think so?
No, he is he's one of the most overrated players.
Those
in NBA
Pacers
history.
teams
was he on the Dream Team?
He was not.
Neither was Isaiah Thomas.
He was on the Redeem Team in '96.
Oh, okay. The Redeem Team. I thought the Redeem Team was in 04.
No, 04 was when they finished when they got bronze at the Olympics, and then
so
08
that was 08 the second Redeem Team.
Yes,
part 2.
Yeah.
All right. If like I'll defer to you because my basketball history is largely based off of watching The Last Dance and Showtime.
Heck of a show, man.
With John C. Reilly as the owner of the Lakers.
Jerry Krause, Dr. Jerry Krause. No, oh my God, that's the Bulls GM. That's
why
my
am I
bad.
can't think of it? Bus, Dr. Bus.
Dr. Jerry Bus.
Thinking of Dr. Bus. Great show as well. So that's where a lot of my NBA history information comes from, which means that I'm probably not qualified to say.
Well, the reason I bring it up the way I did is because I think a lot of people think of Reggie Miller as like, oh, of course that guy's a Hall of Famer. And I think if you put their 2 careers side by side objectively and says, whose would you rather have? And this is the other thing with Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry didn't just like cakewalk as the 14th guy on the bench to that ring. He was probably that team's second best player, legit contributor. He made more all-star teams than Reggie Miller. Now, we don't have to use that as a marker.
He wasn't the second best player on that team. I don't even think I would say at the end he was probably the 4th.
Behind who?
Pascal Siakam.
That's obviously the one you could argue.
And the reason I say later into the playoffs is because I think Fred VanVleet outplayed him in both the Eastern Conference Finals
but they had
and
such
the Finals.
Roles. They had such different roles. Like if Fred VanVleet was starting and Kyle Lowry is the one running the second unit, like I'm sure Kyle would have looked a little bit better too going against second units.
Yeah, except also Fred VanVleet was so awful in that first half of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then his kid was born, but he was the second best player in that Bucks series.
But for Kyle, like his value went beyond the box sheet, the box score.
Also, Fred
Score
VanVleet
sheet.
came in a lot of times for Danny Green when he couldn't stay on the floor.
Yeah, like I'm not.
So he played a lot of time against, as Lotad would say, elites.
But okay, but like even still, like when you want to talk about they don't get to the finals. Like if
they don't get to the finals without him. However,
if Fred VanVleet's not there, they probably
like game 6, Kyle Lowry went on an 11-2 run by himself to start the game. He also, in game 1 against the Bucks, had a 30-piece, which was, to that point, his best game of the playoffs. They still ended up losing that game. His stuff was a lot more of the intangibles, what doesn't show up on a box score. However, Fred VanVleet did all those exact same things and shot the pill incredibly well.
And got paid a couple years later. Well, got paid actually after that, and then got paid even more a couple years later.
Shout out to the Rockets, man.
Yeah. Listen, it's a good conversation piece. Do you think Kyle Lowry's a Hall of Famer? Text us in. Let us know. 1-833-401-40. I think he is. Brandon and Josh don't think he is. And we can leave it at that. Well, I guess that music means that it's time to go. First show no real oil conversation at all. But I think we had a great time. Did you guys have
And
fun
how'd that
today?
make you feel?
Well, I pretend. So it felt great talking hoops and talking nonsense and football. It was a
little bit of
It was a perfect.
We
show
hit
for
the
me.
Declan Kruger trifecta.
Yeah, this was the Oh my goodness,
Football,
was it ever?
Basketball,
And fake debates
nonsense.
with your friends.
Yeah.
All right, that music means it's time to go. Like I said, we're gonna get to an update brought to you by Cattail Crossing. 9 and Dine every Friday after 4 p.m. $130 for a pair, 9 holes with a cart, and a $40 gift card to the Out of Bounds restaurant. Book now, cattailcrossing.ca.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
NHL offseason news this morning. Utah Mammoth matching the 1-year $4.775 million offer sheet that had been tendered to their center, Barrett Hayton, by the New Jersey Devils. Hayton will remain with Utah and has to do so for the next calendar year, as the contingency on matching the offer sheet means he cannot be traded. Full slate of games in the majors yet again today, including the Blue Jays wrapping up their set in San Francisco. 1:45 first pitch from Oracle Park. Pair of all-stars on the hill as Dylan Cease will go for Toronto, while Logan Webb counters for the Giants. Elsewhere, Orioles hosting the Cubbies. Yankees continue their set in Tampa Bay against the Rays. The Mariners up against the Marlins. Red Sox on the south side of Chicago against the White Sox. And in one of the nightcap games, the Rockies in LA against the Dodgers. Off the field, Detroit Tigers legend Justin Verlander announces his intent to retire after the conclusion of this season. Verlander just announced to his 10th All-Star game for next week as one of the legends picked for the American side. Verlander, a 3-time winner of the Cy Young Trophy. WCL action tonight from Remax Field. The Riverhawks hosting Nanaimo. And from the CFL, Hamilton Tiger Cats announced the signing of American quarterback Jarrett Daggy. Bo Levi Mitchell, the team starter, stretchered off last week, undergoing surgery on his ankle. Unavailable moving forward. Daggy joins former Elk quarterback Trey Ford in the Tiger Cats room. Coming up on Sports 1440, it is the Lowdown with Lowtide. I'm Brandon Douglas at your Sports 1440 update.
This is Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio